a global pandemic and a national emergency.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
An economy grinding to a halt, companies on the brink.
Well, today we announced a brand new loan scheme for the smaller businesses.
Rishi Sunak, then Chancellor, to the rescue.
Rishi stood up and said, this is the bounce back loan scheme. There'll be no credit checks. It was like jackpot for a lot of people.
A godsend for business, a goldmine for criminals.
£100,000 holidays, eating in the best restaurants, the flashiest, fastest cars, yachts, everything that most people would desire in their lives when they win the lottery. These people, they won the lottery in an entirely different way.
It was a colossal sum of money, gone to some very, very bad people.
This is the inside story of fraud on a massive scale, of gangs and glamour.
I dug about in company's house, you see that?
It's £10 million.
We're really close.
We just want to ask you where the money went. This is The Chef, The Model and The Missing Millions. The story starts here, with two men, Artem Terzian and Davis Grochaski, one Russian and one Lithuanian.
Tell us a bit about Artem Terzian.
Russian, previous bad character, came here, was really the controller of what was going on in relation to this group. A bad man.
Davis?
Lithuanian, previous convictions in Lithuania, again a family man, came to this country, was the mastermind around everything that went on, made a lot of money.
This is John Coles from the National Crime Agency, a copper for decades. He knows a thing or two about fraud.
I've never seen anything like it, so it is the biggest one I know of. It's the biggest one I've seen, and it's probably going to be the biggest one we will see for a long time.
Terzian and Grochaski were money launderers, caught on police surveillance videos, their bags stuffed with cash. And this is them delivering a safe. Bundles and bundles of notes, ledgers and counting machines. They took dirty money from other gangs and put it through a whole load of fake companies, cleaning it, making it look legitimate. Here they are, depositing cash at the bank, something they did almost every day.
The Prime Minister announces the toughest restrictions on our way of life in living memory.
You must stay at home.
What was bad for the legitimate economy was also bad for criminals. The supply of dirty cash virtually dried up. So what do you do if you have a whole network of dodgy companies but with no money to launder?
The Bounce Back Loan Scheme is designed to support UK smaller businesses that have been adversely affected by the coronavirus outbreak.
Well, as luck would have it, the government had just set up an emergency loan scheme. £50,000 on offer. Almost no questions asked.
£2,000 to £50,000.
Well, obviously they're criminals, so they take advantage of anything that's readily available. And fortunately for them, unfortunately for the United Kingdom, COVID came along. The government tried to do the best it could for businesses, for people, to support them during that difficult period. And these people took advantage of it and made £10 million worth through £50,000 applications at a time.
Yep, you heard that right, £10 million. And as soon as the bounce back loans hit their bank accounts here in London, they were gone, sent around the world, to the United Arab Emirates, to the USA, to Hungary, to Malaysia. But Terzian and Grochaskij got careless. They and some of the rest of the gang are now behind bars. Here's Davis being interviewed by the National Crime Agency.
So you were arrested this morning on suspicion of being involved in bounce-back loan fraud. £10 million of criminal funds.
Кто вообще на нас это делает? И вы объясните, что это за бардак вообще?
I don't know who is doing this.
When officers from the National Crime Agency went through the doors of flats 7 and 8 here, they found bundles of cash, high-end watches, a string of bank cards, and evidence of holidays in the Caribbean and reservations at some of London's top restaurants. And that leaves some important questions. Where did the money go? Who else was involved? And can they tell us where it went? It seems the gang made the Docklands area of East London their home. They owned properties here, 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 and here, right next to City Airport. So this is where we start looking. The gang lived well and liked to show it on social media. Here's Davis's wife posing for the camera. We match the view of the ship with the actual ship, and bingo. Renata Grochevskaya is the wife of one of the ringleaders of the scheme. She got a 2-year suspended sentence for her part in it. She's living just over there. Do you think she knows where the money is? I tried to persuade her to do an interview with us. Well, look, thank you for talking to me. She said she was scared to talk to us, didn't want to talk to us, didn't feel she could talk to us, said maybe we should talk to her solicitor, also suggested we might come back with a translator. But at the moment, she's not able to tell us anything useful. So what next? What is it they say? Follow the money. Remember that network of companies the gang used? Each one needed a real person to act as a director. So how much did they know about what their business was being used for?
They do have some responsibility. They probably turned a blind eye to what was going on, but I've no doubt they knew what was going on.
Why do you think that?
If somebody comes to me with something that seems too good to be true, then in the back of my mind, I'm going to be thinking, there's something not quite right about this.
Say hello to Yekaterina Kobrina. Yekaterina was the director of one of the key companies involved in the scheme. Her name was on all sorts of documents. We don't know whether she ever lived in London, but looking through her Facebook profile, we know she came here, and that's just about 200 meters from where the gang was living. She looks like any other tourist smiling for the camera, but was she doing something more than just sightseeing? And this is Povilas Bartkavicius, a chef by trade and director of one of the main companies involved. We know that Povilas was in London too, standing on this exact spot, posing in front of that super yacht hotel. We really want to talk to them. They're not in London anymore, but both have common links to a city more than 1,000 miles away. Lithuania, home to several million people, but we're only looking for two, Povilas and Yekaterina. They just might be able to tell us what happened to that £10 million. First though, let me introduce you to a couple of people. Vidmantas and Gabrielle are local investigative journalists. They've agreed to help out, and as we're about to find out, they're really good. These are the people we're interested in. So we're starting with just two names, and they're not in the phone book. This is Yekaterina. So what do we know about Yekaterina Kobrina?
Yeah, so it is Yekaterina Kobrina.
So it's definitely her, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's the obvious, she's a model. And look, we found an online clothes outlet she works for.
Same tattoo.
Same tattoo.
Hello?
We try to book her for a photo shoot, but the woman on the phone is suspicious.
One post on Facebook.
Vidmantis has found something, a Facebook post.
Talking about Stanevichuk Street.
So this is like a shopping street, or talking about a shop?
She's saying that last week she bought potatoes and it was in very bad conditions in the shops, and today she bought tomatoes.
No, I translate so you can write.
Last week we received rotten tomatoes which look tragic. Okay, so this is Vilnius.
This street where...
So there's where the potatoes were bought.
Yes.
Well, we need to go there, don't we? £10 million of British taxpayers' money in this neighbourhood seems hard to believe. Icky, that's the shop, the supermarket, where Yekaterina was buying her potatoes. So she was doing that, well, a couple of times in over a couple of weeks. I mean, that must mean she lives here or close by. We must be close, but no luck. Dead end for now. So what are our chances of ever finding that money?
Criminals do not have borders. They don't care.
Mantis Vituvis runs a Lithuanian anti-money laundering organisation. In the UK during COVID, the government set up these schemes to help out businesses. They were handing out £50,000 with almost no checks at all. What do you think of that?
I would say it's a mistake. Criminals are the first in the line who trying to use new products, who trying to use new services and etc. So it's a mistake.
With the economy imploding and businesses going to the wall, at the height of COVID, handing out loans as fast as possible seemed like the only option.
Well, right at the start, I thought, well, all you need for a bounce back loan is an eligible company and a pulse. But it now turns out you didn't need either.
We've come to Blackpool to meet Mike, who tried to help legit company owners get their hands on a bounce back loan.
The people who scam the system, they should be rounding them up. They should be looking for them, hunting for them. That's taxpayers' money.
Mike Craig ran a one-man campaign, lifting the lid on all that he says was wrong with the scheme. How big a scandal is this?
It's massive. We're talking billions of pounds. And when you hear that people could just press a couple of buttons, £50,000, ship it off abroad and leave, that's wrong. It's just wrong. For people who were the criminal element, there was no risk at all, because they were guaranteed to, if they had the bank accounts in place, they could get the money the next day. However, a lot of people, genuine businesses, didn't have an account with the first initial few lenders. So some of them were waiting 6, 12 months, even longer, before they actually secured a bounce back loans. And they were the genuine ones, and they missed out on getting the money, which was what the scheme was set up for. But yet the criminals had got the money on day 1, day 2, day 3, and off they trot.
Where does that leave the taxpayer?
Stuffed for billions of pounds.
Back in Vilnius, we switch targets. Remember this guy, Povilas? Well, here's the thing. He was director of one of the gang's dodgy companies. From social media, we know he's a chef, and a pretty good one at that. He won awards at the restaurant where he used to work. But we also know the company in his name received loads of that bounce-back loan money. £10 million came in, and yup, you guessed it, £10 million went out, transferred abroad. Rishi's millions gone through the bank account of a company whose director was Povilas Bartkavicius. We call the restaurant, but he doesn't work there anymore. Feels like yet another dead end. Time to get creative. Most people probably won't know what it is, but if you're a cyclist or a runner, you will. And that's the app Strava. See, Strava records all of the journeys you make, whether you're running or cycling. And I wondered whether Povilas might be, for example, a cyclist. So I put his name into Strava, and sure enough, up it came. And it turns out he's been making journeys first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And look where it takes us. To another restaurant on the other side of town. He pedalled here again and again. Just over there, nice little restaurant, smoke coming out of the chimneys. We know that Povilas sometimes works there, so we're just going to go in, have a meal, and see if he's on shift today. The menu is eye-watering. It's so expensive, the only thing we could afford was the soup. We just don't know whether Povilas is here working in the kitchen. We can't see him in the kitchen, so we follow his Strava route back the other way. Too cold for a bike this time. Looking at Facebook, he's posted in a group for people who own BMWs, and here's his car, and the rear light apparently isn't working. Vid Mantis is on the case. And, miraculously, there it is. It's right, mate. It's BMW. Yeah. It's an E90.
This is the car.
Yeah. So it's that one there, isn't it? We're really close, aren't we?
Yeah.
We must be really close to him.
He's living in this building or in this building.
I mean, he could be watching us now. This man we're talking of, he works as a chef here. He doesn't have lots of money. His brother is in prison. He was the big guy. Do you think there's any chance he might tell us where the money went? Early the next morning, a surprise. Hi, Povilas. I'm Angus from the BBC. We just want to ask you where the money went.
What money?
The money from the bounce-back loans.
I don't know.
Your name is on a company, Bart Solution, yes? And that received £10 million in your name. What? Yeah, your name. The police in Britain say the directors of these companies, they must have known, or they should have known. What do you say to them?
I don't know anything. If I had some money or 10,000 I didn't work 2 jobs here. I just married 2 months ago. I worked without weekends, everything to can buy everything for my wedding.
Povilas tells us he has no idea his name was being used in this way.
I really don't know what to make of that. He seems very genuine, he seems very honest. I don't think he was lying to us, but as far as he's concerned, that is the first time he's ever heard that his name is connected to the theft of £10 million of taxpayers' money. Now, he's off to work. He does 2 jobs, he says. He lives in this set of flats.
Those on the edge of this scheme may or may not have known what was going on, but the fact is the British taxpayer got well and truly ripped off. But why? Why wasn't the gang stopped? Why was the scheme so flawed? Politicians? Police? Who's to blame? Well, London is the only place to find those answers.
This story just gets more and more extraordinary. It turns out that when the gang were doing the bounce-back loan fraud in 2020, they were already out on police bail for the money laundering. They'd been arrested for that in 2018. The courts decided they couldn't keep them in prison.
Yes, it is frustrating. It's frustrating for hard-working officers that the individuals that they think are probably detained for a long time are back out there doing things, but that's the way things happen. And, you know, our job is to get out there and arrest them. How the rest of the criminal justice system works is down to the rest of the criminal justice system.
But a difficult moment.
Yeah, difficult for people who work hard like my officers do.
It sends a dreadful signal to society that bad people are enriching themselves on the back of decent taxpayers.
If anyone's going to know what went wrong with the bounce-back loan scheme, it's this man. Lord Agnew was the government's counter-fraud minister. He resigned in sheer frustration.
I think there was a colossal naivety. The mood in the Treasury was that they were desperate to get the money out as quickly as possible. What they didn't understand was that a fraud and a credit check takes minutes. It would not have delayed the money going out. Well, it was just maddeningly frustrating because these were own goals that could easily have been stopped. But because the events were moving so quickly, by the time we were able to tighten things up, you know, the horse had bolted, really. I'm worried that there is still a reluctance to grip this with real vigour.
So as we stand, do we think that those at the top of government have learned the lessons of the bounce-back loan scheme?
I would like to hope so, but I'm not convinced.
So, what about Yekaterina? She's out there somewhere. Maybe she knows more about where the money went. We spend days trying to track her down. And then, just as we're about to give up,
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I ask her about the company in her name.
But I don't know anything. And you should ask other people. Because I live in Vilnius, in Lithuania.
But you've lived in London too, haven't you?
But I don't give comments, no comments. No comments, only with my lawyer.
And with that, she's gone.
We've been chasing around Vilnius for the last couple of days trying to find Yekaterina, and then suddenly we just saw her walking down the street. We nearly missed her, actually. She says she does know Povilas and Davis, but really only because she was at school with them. And as for the companies which have got her name on, she says she has no idea about them. So where does that leave us? We've found two people
whose names are on the companies which were used for the money laundering and the bounce-back loan fraud. But we just don't know if they had any idea where the money came from and where it went to. And as for that money, are we going to find it? Is the British taxpayer going to get it back? It looks highly unlikely.